questions.
Yeah, so in the last video we did, you talked about the Zen Sickness. So I looked into and I read whatever I could find on that. And I also tried to contemplate on what you said at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so like I got some ideas, but I was wondering if you can like elaborate more on that. Uh, and then yeah,
Well,
like
why don't you give me the ideas that you ran into, and then we can,
mm,
and then I can comment on those. That'd probably
okay,
be more fruitful.
sounds good. So yeah, so you mentioned there were three things. One was leaving before arriving. Second one was attachment after arriving, and then the third one was penetration with no reliable basis. So as I thought about it, leaving before arriving uh, kind of felt like that that even though I could be on the right path, uh, things might start feeling easier because of the work, and then with that, uh, I might start feeling that okay, I am in a comfortable space, and maybe this is good enough. I don't wanna go further, uh, that kind of thing, and then the drive to work hard, which used to come from suffering, that drive will not be there.
Because you're not suffering as much.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's one of the side effects of this work is you start to suffer less and less, and life gets easier and easier. That's true. Go ahead.
So that's what I thought for the first one. The second one was attachment after arriving.
Uh huh.
This one I think is more about once someone gets awakening or like they get satori or kensho, then uh, whatever experience they have, they kind of get attached to that because it might feel really good or it might feel okay they have achieved something, and with that there will be attachment, and just the experience might become a cage for them that they will kind of get stuck in there.
Well, I think here what he's referring to is the more classic meditation sickness, where people get
Okay.
they get quietude, they get peace in their sitting meditation. So now remember, I think you're referring to the 11th century Buddhist teacher whose name is, it's escaping me at the moment,
Mhm.
Foyan, right? The 11th century Foyan.
Mhm.
Is that what you're referring to? Probably.
I don't know. I basically try to just contemplate on what I could.
Well, here, let me read it
So
directly from the text. It's quite nice. And this is, and then we're going to talk about that a bit more. And I know you're
mhm.
only on number 2, but here, let's see. So it's important to recognize that he's talking in a zendo. He's talking in a Japanese uh, zendo, a combination of students and a few teachers in an organized arrangement, and they live there. I mean, it's an institution, so things are different than the individual solo practitioner out in the wild. But I think, and he's hilarious. So let's listen to this. Zen Sickness. The spiritual body has 3 kinds of sickness and 2 kinds of light. When you have passed through each one, only then are you able to sit in peace. In the heroic progress discourse, furthermore, Buddha explained 50 kinds of meditation sickness. Now I tell you, you need to be free from sickness to attain realization. And this is the funny part. So Buddha describes 50 different kinds of meditation sickness. And Foyan says, in my school, there are only 2 kinds of sickness. One is to go looking for a donkey, riding on the donkey. The other is to be unwilling to dismount once having mounted the donkey. You say it is certainly a tremendous sickness to mount a donkey and then go looking for the donkey. I tell you that one need not find a spiritually sharp person to recognize this right away and get rid of the sickness of seeking, so the mad mind stops. Once you have recognized the donkey, to mount it and be unwilling to dismount is a sickness that is most difficult to treat. I tell you, you need not mount the donkey. You are the donkey. The whole world is the donkey. How can you mount it? If you mount it, you can be sure the sickness will not leave. If you don't mount it, the whole universe is wide open. That guy's amazing. I love Foyan. Okay, so we're on number 2, attachment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, attachment to sitting and quietude, and the peace that comes with that. After with a little practice, you can get to where meditation becomes very, it's like a drug. Okay, next.
Mm-hmm.
What's the third one? Penetration.
Penetration with no reliable basis.
Okay, so this is another Zen teacher, it sounds like. Okay. So tell me, what you discover?
Yeah, so with this one, I felt like this is about mistaking something for something else that is
Very good.
mistaking. Yeah, so basically, I might have some assumptions, some ideas, and then I try to just go deeper into that without realizing that the fundamental, the basis is wrong itself, and just wastes a lot of time.
Excellent. Wow, good job. That's interesting. I wonder where these came from. Because that's not Foyan. Foyan says, it's riding a donkey, looking for a donkey while you're riding a donkey. And all right. So that should help balance you, get you more balance. No.
Mm-hmm.
Follow-ups.
But while I was looking online, I did find one more.
Oh, careful online, man.
Yeah, I found only one thing I think that felt relevant that I wanted to just
Sure.
talk about and see.
Just be careful online, because remember, fakes outnumber true people like at least 99 to 1. And they're also much more likely to go spout it out all over the internet too. So just be careful. I mean, you could do okay, but you just got to be really, really careful.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Should I go? Yeah, so in this one, this is from Zen Master Huang Long Sin. And
Zen Master who?
Huang Long Sin. HSIM. Oh, and it says.
How do you spell Huang Long? Huang Long?
Huang, HUANG, Huang Long, LONG, HSIM.
Okay.
Sin.
Yeah. Okay.
And then in this one he says, once he told his student, Leng Yuang Chen, those who get dharma emptiness will be very joyous at first. This could eventually lead to distraction and restlessness to let them have a sound sleep. So let them have a sound sleep.
That sounds a little confused. For one thing, emptiness. Read it again slowly.
So this is those who get dharma emptiness.
Emptiness, okay. So the emptiness, understanding emptiness is critical. That's true. And that can be realized even intellectually to a point. It's a logical conclusion, especially in the modern world. But okay, so now those who get emptiness, what?
Those who get dharma emptiness will be very joyous at first.
Well, they might be joyous, they might be anxious, they might be scared. It's a scary thought, right? But go ahead. Might be joyous. Okay, that's interesting.
He said will be, not might be, will be very
will be joyous. Well, we know that's not true sometimes. All right, go ahead.
And then this could eventually lead to distraction and restlessness. So let them have a sound sleep.
That just sounds like a bad translation, frankly. It doesn't make any sense. Emptiness, is neither a cause for joy nor for depression, but it can cause either or both. But it's trivial compared to some of the other discoveries. And then he says it can become a distraction. No, emptiness is not a distraction. Emptiness is central, absolutely central, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then he says something about they should sleep.
Yeah, so let them have a sound sleep.
That sounds incoherent to me. Who is this guy?
Yeah, Huang Long is Sin.
What century?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so it felt kind of off. So
Yeah, it's totally off. It sounds like a bad translation at best. Yeah,
okay,
just get that out of your mind.
okay,
It's just you got to be real careful, especially with Zen, because we'll talk about that later. But okay, that's just off. All right.
got it. Yep.
Emptiness is just emptiness. It's not a. It's a. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to go there. It's just it sounds too confused. Probably a bad translation, or maybe it was bad to begin with. There's been fakers all over the place. There are teachers that are, and in these areas, it's to do because the people don't know any better, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we have this to the current day in America. It's crazy. I presume Europe as well, but that's just.
Mm-hmm.
There's no real gold there's no fake gold unless there's real gold. So, all right. Next.
Yeah, then I have a different question. So I was reading the book Dharma Conversations, and in
Dharma conversations or dream conversations?
sorry, yeah, Dream Conversations. Yeah.
This is a superb book, especially for beginning with Zen. Get this book if you're interested. Go ahead.
Yeah, so in this one, there was a chapter on compassion. I think it was pretty early on in the book, and they talk about three types of compassion.
Yes.
It was
Okay,
the
but
second
before
type
you,
of
okay, but let's talk about that. Without compassion, wisdom is meaningless. Without compassion, insight goes nowhere. Without compassion, and the older I get, the more I realize how absolutely brilliant these, not just brilliant, but pragmatic and honest and straightforward these spiritual traditions are. Whether it's the Christian, the Sufi, the Buddhist, they understand there's a very deep truth, and that is without compassion, all of the information, all of the wisdom, all of the realization in the world won't get you anywhere. So compassion is the second wing that you need in order to fly in this realm. And part of it, so it becomes obvious when there's a sufficient insight because you realize that you and the other are the same. But before that, it's important because it mobilizes you, but more importantly than that, it diminishes the focus on your own private little Idaho ego. You see?
Mm-hmm.
So when the Buddhists wish for the enlightenment of all sentient beings, that's not just because they're trying to be good people. It's because they understand that that's the only way that it's going to arise in any kind of healthy way that's going to work for the individual person. And so that aspiration to enlighten all sentient beings is also a pragmatic aspect, not just a moral precept or something like that. Because otherwise you're just focused more and more on your own little ego, right? You see what I'm saying? And that's counterproductive in this enterprise. All right, go ahead. Sorry. Talking about compassion. And there were three
Yeah,
kinds.
so there were three types of compassion. I wanted to talk about the second one, the second type.
Well, why don't you let me read it? It's just a paragraph, right?
Yeah,
Do you
yeah,
mind if I read it to folks?
yeah, sure, yeah.
Okay, this is Dream Conversations. There are three kinds of compassion. One kind of compassion whose object One kind is compassion whose object is living beings as such. Another compassion Another is compassion whose object is elements. The third is objectiveless compassion. These three kinds of compassion are very different. The compassion whose object is living beings as such is the compassion of one who thinks beings are real and their delusions are real and wishes to liberate these real beings from real delusions. This is sentimental compassion, which is limited by feelings. It is still just emotion and desire, not real liberative compassion. The compassion whose object is elements is the compassion of one who sees all beings as conditional productions of causal relations, of compounds of elements that have no real person or thing in themselves. This is illusory compassion for illusory beings, using illusory means to liberate illusory beings from illusory delusions. Although it transcends the sticky emotion of sentimental compassion, this dreamlike compassion still retains the image of illusion, so it is not yet truly liberated compassion. Beautiful. Okay, go ahead. What are your questions?
Yeah, so in this one, I feel like I see people like that, like the second compassion. But at the same time, I also know that their pain is real, even if they are a product of their conditions and elements.
You could
Uh,
almost say that their suffering is more real than anything else.
their suffering is like my suffering.
Correct. It is your suffering. You'll learn.
So, and I know that the pain and suffering, it hurts. So it hurts me and it hurts them. But because it's an illusory compassion, how can I get beyond this?
It's not illusory compassion. It's illusory. Okay. This world is not as it appears to us. Correct?
Hmm.
Despite of that, we acknowledge suffering, our own and that of others. And then we work to dispel it. What's the problem?
There's no problem. I didn't even think there was a problem, but in
Okay.
the book they said it's a problem. They said it's a second type of compassion that is illusory for illusory beings. And
Right.
so then
Yeah.
it
So
seems like
so
it's a problem.
this is Zen. Okay. Now Zen. These guys don't. They're not messing around. They're not playing around. They want you to wake up. They want you to wake up suddenly. They want you to wake up completely, and then they want to work with you. I mean, they want you to grow after that as well. So they're not mincing any words. But what they do talk about is sentimental compassion, how that's counterproductive in this work. Where, oh, I'm so compassionate, oh, I'm so, it's like generosity. If you practice generosity with any shred of hope for gain,
Hmm.
whether it's people appreciate you, or it's just something, or you get your name in the paper, or you get your name on a building, that's not generosity at all. And so practicing true generosity, which is something, it's not just giving money either. It's you'll know it when you've practiced generosity and there's no expectation of gain and no sentimental or egoic satisfaction from having practiced generosity. Oh, I'm a good person, or oh, people think I'm a good person. When all of that is gone, then you can practice generosity. And it's hard to do. It's not easy. Generosity is very much underrated in terms of its difficulty. And then also you have to do something wise. You have to be generous wisely. So that's very, very difficult. So along those same lines, so we have generosity, which is sentimental, which is gets you nowhere, and is usually misguided, frankly. Just like we have compassion that is sentimental, you know.
Hmm. Hmm.
oh, we have to take care of all these poor, it's just, yeah, the world is full of that. That's part of our problem, actually. It's fake compassion towards the homeless, fake compassion towards the drug addicted. It's a disease, and it's epidemic and endemic in America, at least. We've made industries out of compassion. Lots of money changing hands. I probably shouldn't elaborate further, but so sentimental compassion, like sentimental generosity, is maybe worse than nothing, frankly. Next question.
Yeah, so this one is, so I think this question, I think I have struggled for maybe a long time. So this one is, so I know in Buddhist text they place a lot of emphasis on craving, a lot of emphasis on craving, like getting rid of craving. And I think I have a certain idea what they mean by craving, but I wanted to just like run it by you to make sure that I understand it and the way it's
Okay, go
supposed to
ahead.
be.
Go ahead.
Uh, yeah, so I think there's a thing called desire, and then there's a thing called craving, uh, and there's a difference between the two. I think a desire is something that leads to seeking to some extent that causes attachment. Uh, b- if it's if it's more than appropriate, if it's more and when it's more than appropriate, then I call that as a craving. But if it's reasonable on whatever terms that I need to function in life, then I don't see that as a problem, and I don't call that a craving.
Okay, so you're far enough along to where we can have a talk about translations. This word clinging, the word no, the word craving, the word clinging, the word attachment, the word desire, the phrase not willing to let go. All of these things, these are problems of translation. And someone translates from the Pali and they think, oh well, dukkha, and they go, and then they're talking about attachment. We need a word for that. Let's see, what could it be? And they're not enlightened, right? They're not enlightened translators. And then maybe they're translating for the 19th century, or even the 18th century, or even before that. And so they say, well, let's use the word craving, because the word desire in our culture in the 1600s, that only refers to food and sex. So we'll use the word craving. Or they say, well, why don't we use clinging? Well, clinging doesn't mean anything like what we want it to mean in our current type. So all these words, as you get more sophisticated and you start reading different texts, you start reading that these words are unless you have an enlightened translator, they're arbitrary. And unless you're reading something for your epoch, they're vintage, right? So we don't know exactly, unless we go back to let's say the 17th century or the 19th century, and say, well, why did they use the word craving instead of clinging, or desire instead of some other word, right? And so now you need to get down to the real meaning of it. And you can shift the words around like pieces on a chess piece. We can say, okay, well, craving is going to be worse than, it's like jealousy and envy. Those two words, they used to mean one thing, when I was younger, but now their meaning has switched, and jealousy means envy, and envy means jealousy. So there's all kinds of things like this that you have to be alert to at your stage. Okay. So go ahead and move the pieces around, and you can say, well, craving is desire that's too much, or desire is craving that lasts too long. You could do all of that as long as you want, but that's not going to get us to the actual essence of the matter, right? Because these are just words. And that's just a feature of this kind of work. You have to think. All right, and that goes for everything, for the noble truths, patience. Another word is patience. Well, we use the word patience, but I mean, we could have used the word forbearance, and that might have been better in the 21st century.
Mm-hmm.
And so it goes. Words are just words, and now we're trying to use words to point to reality, and reality is much more substantive than the word. So, good question.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, the map is never the territory. The words are never the thing. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, good. Does that answer the question?
I mean, it gave me
The word
stuff to
blessing.
more.
The word blessing.
Sorry, I didn't get.
Another word would be blessing.
Mm-hmm.
Another word would be karma. These things mean different things during different times. I mean, blessings on you at one time in the 50s and the 60s was just something that didn't have the religious baggage associated with it. You want to lift your head up just a tiny bit from the screen for me? So these words change in meaning, so you have to just understand that. Thank you. You have to understand that.
Mm-hmm.
All right?
Yeah.
Follow up?
Yeah. I've got it. Yeah.
Follow up?
No, I have a next question. The question.
Okay. Question.
So yeah, so this one is, I think I have been noticing it for a while. So basically, a lot of times I will be in a position to help someone, and I will just go and do that because it feels natural. But along with that, I notice kind of a jealousy coming in, and the jealousy comes in because if I get a thought that what if this guy gains more from this than what I have gained? So like maybe this guy or this person will benefit more from it than me, and that creates this kind of jealousy uh, from that thought. But then I just acknowledge the thought and move on. But then this thought is not like it doesn't go away, like it has not gone away yet. It still keeps coming up, depending on what kind of help or what kind of thing I'm doing. Uh, yeah,
Okay.
depending on the situation.
First of all, you're pointing to something very, very real and very, very concrete and something that will be helpful to many people. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So that's great. But in addition to that, because you use the word jealousy instead of envy or resentment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there may be another word. I mean, I don't even know the word. There's a word for that. That feeling that you're talking about is real, but does it really fit into jealousy? No, because you helped him. Does it fit into envy? No, you don't really want to hurt him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does it fit into resentment? Well, yeah, but the thing is, on the other hand, you're the one who helped him. So if you feel any resentment, it's towards yourself, right? So again, we could play with the map, the words, or we can go to the essence, that feeling that you have that, wait a minute, this guy, I helped this guy out, now he's going to use it against me, or he's going to use it to rise above me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a very human thought. Great that you see it clearly. It's like a perfect teaching. So now you have to watch that because it doesn't want to go away. You're clinging to it. You're attached to it. Whether you like it or not, you desire it because that's why you're holding on to it. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Part of you does. These aren't criticisms of you. This is trying to illustrate what one does with these feelings you can't seem to get rid of. First, you've done the first part beautifully. You've identified it and you kind of isolated and you kind of objectified it. You didn't act out on it. You didn't like start beating yourself up about it. You didn't start beating him up about it. You didn't go complain about him, and you're not complaining to yourself. You're not being a big baby. You're just looking at it. Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, you need to look at the attachment to it. Because the human mind has this this is a terrible thing to have to tell people, but if the one thing about the human mind, at least a lot of the time, if it doesn't have one problem, If it doesn't have a single problem, it'll create one.
Mm.
It needs, it's as if it needs to have problems. It needs to have conflict. And so, and this is what Krishnamurti is talking about, how conflict just murders the brain. Conflict it destroys the mind. I think that's overstating it a bit, especially in the beginning. But you want to be able to watch this cloud drift away. And then later, with more experience, you'll start drifting away much faster. And you realize, because you have practice, you have forbearance, right? You have the patience or the skill of just watching it. And whatever it is, it will pass, right? That's Taoist wisdom. Whatever it is, it's going to pass. So now the only question is, how long will it take and how will it happen? And you can turn this into a very nice project of observing something in the formless, observing your apparent clinging to it, right? Which is the root of suffering. And then you can watch both of them dissipate very consciously. And that's the name of this game. That is what this is about. Knowing your mind and learning to master your mind. And sometimes with your mind, the best strategy is to wait it out and watch. Because whatever it is, it will change and it will mutate into something else. Or it'll be replaced by something else. So good. Good. Now that's meditation. That's meditation. Good. Follow up.
Yeah, I have a follow-up on that. So I also
Before you go there, I want people to appreciate. So this is why we do meditation, sitting meditation at the beginning, so you can get enough distance from your own thought, your own impulses, your own hopes, fears, desires, and objects of thought. Have enough distance to where now when you're walking around the world or you're at work or whatever, you could meditate while you're doing whatever. And so this is a good illustration of that. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, so I also thought about it, and it seems there's another, like there's a fundamental problem
Okay.
that is causing this issue as well. So I think I am kind of like categorizing like the material benefit that people are getting, and because of that, so like let's say I help someone and then maybe they make more money with that. So then there's this idea that having more money is better. So the one who has more money is in a better position than the other one. Or let's say I help someone to get better at their health. Then it feels like, okay, someone who is stronger and like maybe healthier is in a better position than they. So there's this comparison that is going on. And this comparison is creating this feeling of like me feeling, oh, that maybe the other person became superior to me, and that's where I thought the jealousy was coming in. That because I feel like, okay, he might be superior, become superior to me.
So you can see where the Jesuits come up with the quote, comparisons are odious. So our minds naturally compare, right? That's something else you'll learn. It can't help, it's almost like it can't help it. You see two women walking down the street, you see two men walking down the street, you compare them. I mean, you compare each pair, one with another. Oh, she's attractive, she's less attractive. Oh, he's, skinny and he's not skinny or whatever. Our brains do that. It's a feature of our brain, which we can explain easily from evolutionary theory or whatever. But we could talk about how it's adaptive, but the thing is, it also causes suffering, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this inherent suffering, this inherent comparison is the cause of a lot of suffering. We know that health and wealth and these things they're nice to have, I suppose, but they're not particularly nice. They cannot be relied on, is what I'm saying. And so you know that. And so now some wisdom comes in, right? Some perspective. And I think you're already doing that. So I don't understand exactly what's the question.
So yeah, so the question was that I feel like that if I can somehow make this comparison go away, then this problem will go away altogether.
Don't make it do anything. Do not contend. All right. This is the Taoist. This is why I am reading the Tao to the to nobody in cyberspace, but I'm reading it anyway because later people will need it. The crux of the Tao is to act without contention. So you don't need to fight this. If you fight it, you'll make it worse. What you need to do is watch it. Does that make sense in this context?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like I said, whatever it is, it will pass, and it's also likely to transform or be replaced with something else. You know, your knee will start hurting or something like that, and then you'll forget all about that. And life is just a series of these low yield, no yield thought patterns that go nowhere, and according to Krishnamurti, damage the brain. I got something. Okay, follow up, or have I answered it?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Next
I've
question.
answered it. Yeah.
But that's how you deal with problems in life. You watch them. And then you have a chance to practice your forbearance, your patience. And then if there's something that needs to be done, you do it. But you do it because it's natural to do it. Of course you do it, right? So there's none of that sticky, sentimental compassion part. And you're much more effective that way. And huge amounts, much more gets done than if you spend half your time waiting to be patted on the back by somebody else or by yourself. Oh, I was so generous. I gave this guy $20, a homeless man $20 or $30 or $40, whatever they do these days. I don't know. But the point is that maybe that money is actually going to hurt them, right? So, all right. Next question.
Yeah, so this is about the meditation. So like earlier, I used to do the turning the light around. Now it feels like I can get into that space without doing the whole exercise of going in the back,
Bravo.
because
Good. Keep going. I'm
so
sorry.
it feels similar. So then I was doing the next step of like looking, of finding out who is actually experiencing or observing this. And as I keep looking, who is that, I get to the container part, that okay, like there is this kind of like a very like infinite kind of container, or like I don't know. I think container is the wrong word, but like this infinite kind of like very big kind of space or something. And then when I go looking for someone who is experiencing that, like nothing happens beyond that. So and that's pretty much it. And with that comes this kind of understanding that there's no point in exploring that. Just give up and just stay in that. And then I just stay in that and don't go any further. But
Okay.
I don't know what.
What's the question?
So what? Uh, so what to do from here on? Like, should I be
Go
doing
further.
something more?
Go
Or
further. Explore the boundaries of that space. Get to the edge of it.
Mhm.
Yeah, why not? Just go to the edges of it
Mhm.
and see where they are.
Mhm.
And see if is it a container? Maybe. All right.
Okay, got it. Yeah. And then I have a follow up. Yeah.
Okay, follow up.
Yeah. So as I keep look like exploring and looking, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I forget. So basically, I forget all the objects that I usually pay attention to. So like sensation, sounds, body, everything. So when I am looking, I forget, because when I get up, I don't remember remembering or noticing any of the objects
Do
when
you
I was looking.
forget or you don't attend to?
Yeah, I think I don't attend to,
Right.
and
So
because
that's
of
very
that,
different. For something to exist, you must attend to it, right? You have to pay attention to it in that space. So you're not forgetting anything. You're just not attending to it. Just like right now, you're not attending to the sensations on the left side of your neck until I start to mention it, and then you do, right? So
yeah.
it's not that you forgot anything. It's that it wasn't in your universe at that time.
Mhm.
And it's
And
not, and you
you
can't
have
go put it back either. It's gone forever. So be careful what you attend to. All right, so what's the question?
so with that, there's no memory of it, and I was
There
thinking
was no
that
memory was recorded.
yeah.
Yeah, nothing was recorded. Good. Because you're
So
attending
I
to bigger
was
fry. You're dealing with bigger stuff.
so yeah. So my question was, am I doing it right, or again the obsessive mind comes in that whether I'm doing something right or not, and
Yeah,
wanted to
keep
check.
going. Keep going. Yeah, good. No. I think that's you're doing just fine. It's nice that you've done enough of the golden flower practice to where you don't need to be sitting, and you can turn the light around whenever you want. And the best time to do it is, do you ever watch horror movies?
I used to, not anymore, but I used to.
Well, if you're in a very exciting movie and it's at the climax and the most thrilling part or whatever, that's when you want to turn the light around, you know? And so, or you're at work and there's some big hubbub about something, or there's somebody pulls a fire alarm. As
Mhm.
you're headed for the doors, you drop your consciousness back into that spaciousness and you're getting stronger and stronger. You're
Mhm.
still able to do everything just as well, probably even better. But that's, see, there's been a huge misconception about meditation, and it's nowhere worse than in Zen, where people have thought that if you just sit quietly like this, in a lotus position, the way the monks do, because they need to do something all day, right?
Mhm.
That's what everybody should be doing, and nothing could be further from the truth. The best meditation occurs in real life, in action, as you're getting to the subway station, getting on the subway, as you're finding a seat, and maybe not while you're looking at the map because you're trying to understand where you're going. But once that's settled and your attention is freed up, now you can relax into the openness again. And you just get off at your stop, meditating the whole
Mhm.
time. No one would ever know.
Mhm.
So good, that's progress, don't you think? And there's less suffering,
Yeah.
you notice? There's less suffering.
Mhm.
Yeah, good. Yeah, when I was a doctor, that was my whole deal, was trying to keep people, trying to eliminate suffering. But it turns out this works much, much, much better than any of the psychiatric stuff,
Mhm.
which just replaces one problem with another problem. Okay, follow up?
Yeah, I have a, yeah, I can say this is kind of a follow-up itself.
Not for everybody, by the way. I'm sorry, I just had to put a little caveat to the old me. Obviously, not for everybody. Some people need, medicine because their brains are disordered. I mean, the brain is not malfunctioning the way the kidney or the thyroid would malfunction. And for those people, they need something else. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, agreed. So this is so after our last session, I was thinking, why do I keep getting these ideas that I am not compassionate or like I have low self-esteem and all those things? And it seemed that they all occur because of my obsession and obsession of kind of obsession of the self. So basically, wanting to be happy, wanting to feel good, wanting to be perfect, wanting to not make a mistake. And then after that, I dropped the idea of obsessing. And with that, things became much easier.
Yes,
Uh,
absolutely. So that's what was the word we were on? We were on desire, clinging, attachment, craving. So I know it doesn't seem quite natural, but those that general direction applies also to obsessiveness. Yeah, so you let go of it. Good, good, good. Isn't it much nicer to be more relaxed?
Yeah.
It's easier on your
It's much
body
nicer.
too.
Yeah, it's much nicer. Yeah, it's much nicer, and I feel like I suddenly became more patient than before because
Absolutely.
there's no rush to or obsession about something.
And you're nicer to be
And
around too, right? People notice.
mm,
That's why Dharma people are, generally very attractive to other people.
mm.
Okay, good. Progress, progress.
And with that, I like a thought comment that if I continue doing that in the future, will it come to a point where I will feel like I am kind of just being lazy because now there's no drive as such, and I have become okay with everything kind of. So then, am I kind of going the other extreme? And how to guard against that?
Could you be lazy if you wanted to?
I don't think so,
All right. So then,
but
so you have no idea what laziness will mean in the future.
yeah, I don't have it. Yeah.
And so laziness just happens to be a pejorative that your mind has chosen out of billions of words. For you, I'm speaking to you personally. There are quite a few people who are quite capable of being very lazy, right? And their lives show it. But that's not your issue. So maybe you wish you could be lazy in the future. It'd be more like it, right?
Hmm.
Because that
Okay.
freedom to obsess or not obsess, to work or not work, to create or not create, to go further or not go further, that's freedom. But that's
Hmm.
something to look forward to in the future, to have them to be the master of the option,
Hmm.
right? To be the master of your mind rather than being mastered by your mind,
Hmm.
or what
Yeah.
the Muslims call the greater jihad. Yeah, so don't worry about
Yeah.
fantasies of the future. You're just wasting time in the
Okay.
present by doing that. Freedom's only here now,
Hmm.
not in the past, not in the future. Right here, right now. Everything's right here, right now.
Hmm.
Okay?
Yep. Got it.
Question?
I think that's all I had.
Okay, sir.
Uh,
Good job. Keep going. So we talked about the craving, the attachment, the desire, the clinging, the da 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 da. Well, all those things apply to the ego and the self, right? You're holding on to that. It's not easy to let go of, but steady gets her done, and just keep on going, keep on trucking. Okay, sir.
mhm.
Take good
Okay.
care.
Cool.
Take care. Bye.
Well, thank you.
Sure.
Bye.